Today is one of my favorite types of episodes. This is a real life story from a real life couple who closed on their first home using a VA loan in 2022. And I'm very excited to share it with you. And if you guys want to hear more stories, not just from me, but from real life home buyers, all you got to do is smash that like button, hit those notifications, click that bell, and you'll be the first one to know when we've got current market information coming out for you first time home buyers. Ken and Danielle, say hi to everybody. Say hello to the world.
Hey, hi.
Hello.
Now, they have a home and they're Zooming from two different places. So I have to ask you, are you Zooming in two different rooms, or is one of you at a job because you have to pay for a mortgage?
The latter. Yeah, so I'm actually a reservist with the Air Force. And so I've been flying back and forth between Maryland and Dayton, Ohio, where I do my duty at.
Are you on
for almost 2 years now?
Wow. Are you on your 2 weeks active because you're a reservist, or you're just going back?
That's right.
You're on your active now.
2 weeks active.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just did my weekend this past Saturday and Sunday, and then this week I'll be here for 5 days, and then I'll travel back home to Maryland. Looking forward to being home with my wife and my little one.
Wow. How old's
my little daughter? Yeah.
How old's your daughter?
She is 11 months.
Wow. I'll jump into that first. You're the crazy people that bought a home with an infant. How did that go?
That's right. Oh, dude.
Tell us about
triage.
How do you see homes? How do you go look at homes when you have an infant? Did you do the one stay in the car thing, or how did you do it?
You know, it worked out well where she was at school a lot of the day, and we would go see homes with Kate during the workday, and then we would pick her up. But there was a couple Saturdays where we went to some open houses and she came with us. I mean,
okay, I've got to ask, because you said it. I know my listeners, you said 11 months, right?
That's right.
School?
She's 11 months now.
Well, okay. So I call it school because she does learn.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. But I was like, I got two. I know preschool doesn't start till 3 or 4, y'all.
No, I like to get in the habit of calling it school because she does learn there. So it's not
Wonderful.
Just the kids over watching TV and, kids are just tearing up the house. No, she's learning. So cool.
Ken, did you rock the baby Bjorn when to look at houses?
Absolutely.
Pack?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then there are a few times where we took the car seat as well, right? Because if you can't get through the door with the car seat, that's a problem right there. Yeah. So, it's we can't move into it if we can't get through the door with the car seat.
Well, and then when you look at houses, you do a couple bicep curls with the car seat.
Yeah, he did all that. Not just
okay.
Yeah.
So tell everyone your story. When did this whole process start for you?
Man, I'll let you start with the timeline.
She was raising her hand.
Remember the year. Yeah, go for it, love. Yeah, because if she lets me tell the story, I'll embellish and in her eyes, I'll get it all wrong.
No, not all wrong. So initially, it started in July. No, actually, it was late June of 2020. So in the thick of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a couple friends who were looking at homes and had bought a new build, and they were telling us about it. So like, all right, let's go take a look at it. Went to take a look at it and we really liked it. But the timeline was very quick. Like, there's only 2 more left and you gotta get it before it's gone. And so we said, all right, well, let's give ourselves 30 days to see if this is what we're gonna do, because we had not looked at buying a home before that time. So we spend time doing all this research, watching YouTube videos of the VA loan and that process, and looking up home buying courses, just you name it, we were looking into it. The second week in July, we were going to Ohio because he was on Air Force duty. And I looked up your podcast, or I looked up a podcast about home buying, and I saw your podcast, and we actually listened to your podcast on the way to Ohio. And we were like, oh yeah, this is great information. We can do this. And then maybe a couple weeks later said, well, actually it was Kenneth who said, this doesn't feel right. It feels like a lot is happening very quickly. And so we decided not to move forward with that new build. Fast forward to November 2021. Little did I know that Kenneth here had been listening to your podcast for like a couple weeks. And we were also thinking about the next move for us the following year, whether we're going to move into another apartment. So I had been looking up apartments, and little did I know, Kenneth was listening to your podcast, and he came to me one Saturday. I never forget. It's like, so love, I think we should look at buying a home. And I'm like, what? Buying a home? Like, where did this come from? He's like, well, I've been listening to Dave, and I just really feel confident that we can buy a home. And I was really listening to the Madison story, and I'm like, she's 24 years old and she bought a home. We can do this. And I'm like, all right, well, let's do it. And so that's when I think I reached back out to you saying like, hey, we're ready to buy. Send us a unicorn realtor. And then you hooked us up with Kate, who was a godsend. Unicorn realtor, who hooked us up with a unicorn lender. And here we are. We bought a home.
Yeah. That is, I could say thank you. End of podcast. That's it. Did everyone hear that?
Yeah. No, and I will say that's a great summary, love. You definitely landed the plane there.
Which is not my typical, which is why he mentioned it.
Oh, I love Air Force analogies. All right.
Yeah.
Well, before we hit record here, Kenneth was saying that it's the planning process, and maybe you could have done it in 2020. But it sounds to me like what really got it going was when, it's not just all about me and my podcast, but that initiated the research beginning for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll say, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, what surprised you during the research? Because you obviously didn't pull the trigger on the first one. So once you got into it, and I am the official podcast of road trips. Every time anyone travels somewhere, they're like, we just said, we're going to figure out how to buy a home on the way to Uncle Joe's. So
no, and I'll say it happened just like that, right? We were driving to Ohio this time. Usually I fly, but we decided we binge listened to How to Buy a Home podcast and learned a lot. Danielle took notes on the way there. And, for me, I'm a program manager on the civilian side. So acquisitions is our thing. And so trying to understand the process from the beginning of the process in its infancy all the way to the end, and to the grave, right? And I just didn't, in the beginning, feel like we were getting a very good explanation of how things were going to progress from start to end. And that's one of the things that added to the unease that I had. And so then kind of prior to that, Danielle had been laid off. And so she had gotten rehired afterwards. And so I'm thinking about all these things and bank accounts, finance, is this going to be the best decision for us to make right now for not just Danielle and myself, but for our little one who was getting ready to be brought into the world at that time. Yeah. And so it just didn't. And then on top of that, it was kind of a high pressure sales technique that I really didn't appreciate either, with, oh, well, we only have so many homes left and the price is going to continue to increase as long as you wait. And it's like, okay, then it's just not for us. So, you can keep it.
I was just going to say, I think that's a wonderful point. It's right now, we're recording this in March of 2022, and it's the hardest time for me to help people because I'm totally with you. But I am telling people, you know what? I wish you started planning in 2021, but you didn't. So here, I need you to plan. I need you to binge my podcast. I need you to listen to the newer episodes, and I need you to get caught up in a week because the prices are going to go up. Now, for you guys, you were fortunate life happens. I'd love to, have people buy a house when they're super pregnant, but sometimes, that's going to take priority. And the first one got you going. And as you were moving through the process then, and you were learning about it, for other people out there who are military, tell us how the VA loan affected your decision. Big nods from Danielle.
Oh man, it made it super easy, right? So, going back to the planning process you asked about initially, since we had talked about it previously in the early 2000s, we had took a look at our finances and really tried to figure out, okay, well, if this is something we're going to do, where are we going to pull the money at for a deposit on the home? How are we going to pay for closing costs and so on and so forth? So we were already in that mindset. We were already putting money away. Thankfully, we both were working at that time. So we were able to not only buy extra stuff for the Bambino, but also put money away in an account for this future purchase. So although we didn't continue to look at homes, it was always in the back of our mind. It was always something we thought about as far as needing a new place to go, because we were in a one bedroom, me, my wife, and our daughter.
Yes.
So it gets real interesting, right? And so looking at the VA loan and understanding how it works with regards to not having to put anything down on the loan was just the icing on the cake for us, right? It definitely opened up the aperture for us to be able to buy a home that we maybe would have not been able to afford had we needed to put a down payment on it. So for all the veterans out there, if you're not thinking about the VA loan at this point in time where you're looking to buy a home, you need to be, right? If you're not, you're wrong. So get it together and
I'm glad you said
figure it out ASAP.
I'm glad you said it, because I was thinking it big time. It's just the most incredible loan. And for someone like you, and you guys are such a great success story. The VA loan offers you the possibility of not only an opportunity to have zero down, but you said a couple great things there, Kenneth. I want people to understand. He said, but you did save for closing costs. And what people also need to understand about a VA loan is there's no PMI on a VA loan. It's one of the great, the whole program is fantastic, and there's just great rates. And you guys, but tell me about this, because I know Danielle was so nice to talk about the unicorn team that helped you. I have people that are calling me right now saying, I keep getting beat by people with 20% down. There's no way for me to get a house with 10% down or 5% down or 3% down. You guys put zero down and got a house in the middle of this crazy market. How'd you pull that off?
For me, that was a slight concern, especially as we got into the process of looking at homes. And when we put in our first offer, and we thought it was a really strong offer, of course, we offered over the list price. And it came back that we were beat out by someone else who basically waived everything and put down a down payment. And so I became a little discouraged, because Kate, she was real with us. She said that it's hard having a VA loan because you can't waive the appraisal. Like the VA has to do the appraisal, and that's something that we couldn't waive. So I got a little down, but she was like, no, it's okay. We're still in the, you just don't put an offer on your first house. So, it's okay. And then the second home we saw, we loved, and it's actually 5 minutes from where we used to live.
Oh, wow.
Which is so funny. When we saw it, we loved it. And again, put a very competitive offer in. And I don't know why, but the owners, they accepted it. I can't explain why. We did write like a little bit of a note, but it was really, the blue wall is beautiful. First time homeowners with a little family. That was it. But they chose us for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. I'm very grateful.
I'm sure it had to do with, you already praised the unicorn team you had.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that your offer was presented strong.
Yes. And I meant to mention that our lender did call
Yes.
the realtor, and I don't know what he said, but he called them. And I'm like, oh, that's great. He called them.
I'll tell you what he said. All those other offers you have on paper, those people just clicked Rocket Mortgage and got a pre-approval. I'm a real person. I'm a real lender. I have seen their finances. I have looked at everything about him. She's an amazing individual who lost a job during the pandemic, got pregnant, and still got a job back. So she's very employable. All those things, the presentation of the offer speaks volumes. And that's incredible. Okay, so besides figuring out that you should plan, and I applaud the people who just go out and like, let's go look at houses. Let's see what happens. Were there any other things that surprised you about the process that you thought, oh, I never knew about this, or I never knew about that?
One thing for me was how quick it was, and not the process of looking at homes. Like we looked at over 200 homes online. Like that was brutal. But the process from putting in an offer to closing was, I don't know why I thought it took so long, but it took less than 30 days over the Christmas holiday. We were able to close on the home. Something else that surprised me was how long the contract was. Like number of pages. I thought it was just, the realtor calls and say, hey, we're putting an offer in. This is the amount. Yeah. And when she sent it to us, I'm like, oh man, we got to read all this in like an hour.
And that's what I'll piggyback on. It was the amount of information you have to consume in a short period of time, right? Because everything, when you are in the, the contract closeout phase, you are on, each day is a delay to your closing day. So you're constantly you're getting documents through the email, you're looking at those, you're signing them, you're sending it back to your lender, your realtor team, and they're pressing on to the next task. And so I think that was the thing that was a surprise to me, was the amount of information you had to look over and try and make sure you understand well enough before you put your name on it. I think that's the big thing for me. My folks, when I grew up, were a huge proponent of telling me, don't put your name on something you don't understand.
And then you got an offer accepted, and you got a whole bunch of DocuSigns where they said, just click the button. Just click the button.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, they're looking at me like, you're going to read through every page. Yes. Yes, I am. I might have been up till 2 a.m., but I read through every page.
That brings up a really great point, something that I think a lot of our listeners can really benefit from. When you're working with a unicorn realtor, be prepared. It's going to go fast, really, really fast. So one of the great things you can do is, once you get going with the unicorn, you can ask them. And I'm starting to do this more and more this year. Say, hey, would you send me a blank contract? And, so at night, when you're looking through on Wednesday night, you're looking through all the homes to look at, stop 10 minutes earlier than you usually do and read 2 pages of the contract, and then do it again on Thursday night, and then Friday, finish it up, and then Saturday, go out. Probably the reason we're not doing that as often right now is because we know that you guys are going to write 3 or 4 or 5 offers because the market's so competitive. But that is a great tip for people. And the other great tip that you guys mentioned, and this is why I love doing these interviews like this, because I do this every day. I give a speech to everybody when we get in to say, okay, the next 10 days are going to be, I call it the Paperwork Avalanche. So, once you get that offer accepted, it's just like, boom, disclosures. And then your lenders like, give me all your tax forms. I need hair from your baby. I need to see every receipt you ever had. And it can get really intense. So be ready for it. Be ready for it.
I felt like it was almost like hazing.
Yeah, it is. It's like, and it's so funny because in this market they're so like, oh, you're so lucky you got a house. Now do all this, and then they throw all that stuff at you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
very grateful
absolutely.
for our team.
How about the home shopping process? Any tips for anybody out there who's getting ready to get out there and do it? Now, you guys did it during the holiday season. Were there did you do driving around and looking at neighborhoods first? Were you you said it was 5 minutes, so you were very familiar. Any kind of general tips for anyone who to help them when they're out looking, whether it was internet sites that you enjoyed or just, times of day just to go look at places, any of that stuff?
I'd say have a list of things that you want. Danielle did a really good job of putting together a spreadsheet that had a few things in that we talked about that we wanted in a home, right? It at least needed to have 3 bedrooms. It needed to have 2 bathrooms. 2 of those bathrooms needed to be on the same level. The laundry room had to be on the same level as the bedroom. So just all of these.
You got
Yes, I
laundry
remember
room.
them
You
all.
got laundry room on the bedroom level.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's like gold in
Right.
California.
Yeah.
They're all downstairs and all
So
the bedrooms are upstairs. My gosh, my wife would pay a gazillion dollars. She keeps asking me to move it upstairs.
yeah. Just put
That's
that add-on on
great.
the outside of the house.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
on the flip side, what'd you give up? Was there anything you gave up, and why?
We gave up a yard.
And why?
I'll say why for me. I think Kenneth may have his own why. For me, the home, it's the townhome. The
Mm-hmm.
home had everything that was on our list, from the 2-car garage to the laundry on the bedroom floor to the number of bedrooms to having an office. Like everything that was on our list was there. And the neighborhood also was, we wanted it to be at least 20-25 minutes from where our daughter's school is.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely on the list, and it checked all the boxes except for a yard. But we have an in unit, so that means a yard is right next to our house. So it's not just our yard, but it is close to our home.
Another great point, and
Yeah.
I will throw in my 2 cents as a person who, when my child was turned one, back in 2007, we were still in our townhome. But my wife had the forethought. She bought it before we got married. So I sold my place and we moved over there. And she bought one of the ones that had the green belt in the front yard. So we had the 1-year-old party on our quote unquote front yard. But really, we just paid with it through our HOA dues. And but that's a great one. So so checking all the boxes doesn't necessarily mean checking all the boxes. It's checking most of the boxes.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
important boxes.
absolutely. Yeah, I think maybe one of the biggest things that I want to add when talking about that list is be realistic with yourself. I can't recall how many times Danielle asked me, am I sure that I want X, Y, and Z? So I work in downtown DC. And so for me, it's pretty important to be able to jump on the metro and head down to work so that I don't have to sit in traffic. And so being near a metro where we're within walking distance is most ideal. And I know we were looking at some places that were about 10 to 15 minutes away from a metro driving wise. So, you can just double that if you're talking about walking. But I would say definitely be realistic with yourself when creating that list. And, it doesn't need to be your dream sheet, but at least understand at a minimum what it is that you want in a home. As far as things that we gave up, I can't say that for me. Okay, I would say appliances were things that I let go, right? So I guess one of the no-nos that we did in our negotiation process is waive the home inspection. And we kind of took a calculated risk on that, I think, because the home was built in 2005. And so my thought process and talking with Kate, our realtor as well, is like, okay, so the home's been around for almost 15, 20 years. Yes, there could be some issues. Yes, things are probably going to begin to break. water heaters, furnaces are probably at the end of their life. But let's put an offer in going into the door, knowing those things, and we can handle those on the back end if they begin to fail or something of that nature. I think that was one of the things that made our offer really strong, as well as utilizing the what's the name of the strategy where you price escalation. Yeah.
Oh, you did the escalation
so
clause.
We used the absolutely, yeah. Great. But because I didn't like that we lost on the first offer.
And he's very competitive.
So, yeah. And an escalation clause for those of you out there listening is when you put in an offer and you know it's going to be a multiple offer situation, and you say, we will match or beat another offer, or, you know, let us know what the other offers are, and we'll maybe go up 1,000 or 2,000 more, as opposed to just saying, okay, here's our first offer, and then they say, here's a multiple counter offer, they call it. Instead of you just saying, okay, we're going to offer 10,000 more, you say, we're going to offer 10,000 more. And then some of them might be structured like you would say, we're going to offer 10,000 more, and we'll offer up to 5,000 more the next offer, up to 600 or whatever you want to. You can cap it, or you can just say, I don't care what it is, whatever the next offer is, we're going to go. But I'm sure you guys had to be wary and make sure that you still had your appraisal as part of it, right?
Right. And we weren't in the business of writing a blank check, Dave.
Yeah. Well, you can't, because you have it to get an appraisal. So
right. Yeah. So we have a downdraft and a cooktop, and those things needed to be replaced, as well as the dishwasher. So we were able to ascertain that during the walkthrough of the home, though. So we just kind of went into it knowing that we were going to have to buy those things. And so,
and I know it's silly.
Luckily.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I know it's silly. And I sometimes I feel like I don't have to, I think, gosh, I don't really have to tell them this, do I? But, you know, when we're talking about a brand new home, when you're talking about the commute, all I'm thinking is not stuck in traffic. I'm thinking about half an hour a day or an hour a day away from the little one. And however much those appliances cost for you for 7 hours a week, 5 hours a week, that I would have bought a $25,000 appliance package to have that time with my infant.
Yes.
Child. Maybe not my teenager, but you know. No, he's great. He's great.
Yes. Could I comment on the appraisal part? Because I
yes,
think,
please. Everyone wants to know about this.
Yes. So the VA, of course, they did their appraisal, and they appraised the home for $25,000 more than what we put our offer in on.
I'm sorry, did you hear that?
Yeah, $25,000 more. Yes. And we were, of course, we were so excited that, one, we didn't have to pay the appraisal difference if there was any. And two, we have a home that has equity in it going into it.
That is called instant equity. And when did you close, Danielle?
January 4th.
And today is March 14th. So let's see. If you had $25,000 on the day you closed, there you go. Happy housewarming gift. There's your appliances, by the way, Kenneth.
There's some other things I want to do to the kitchen as well. We said that we would give it a year, though.
Well, here's the great thing. You had $25,000 worth of equity. Okay. Now, over the last few months, what is it, 8 weeks, you've probably made another 25 easy. So now when you get to the point later on, as you're owning the home, you can figure out, once you get to a certain point, where you can do a home equity line of credit and fix up the house, you know. And the nice thing about having no money down too is you secured a home with a low down payment. So any extra savings that you have, I mean, I'm assuming you didn't break the bank and use everything on your closing costs. You still have some money left, right?
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, yeah, you had to buy those appliances. And now who's the cook? Does that mean you're the cook, Kenneth?
We both cook, actually.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Danielle more so than me. I'm more of a rice and meat kind of person. Danielle, she likes a lot more variety.
Yes.
And the kitchen works for both of you guys to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
It does. So we have an island, and it has a cooktop in it, and we're not used to that setup. We're used to having an island where you can just do everything on it. And so we're figuring out how to maneuver in that type of kitchen. So he's not thrilled about it, but
I'm just going to change it.
If you have any wall space anywhere in the kitchen dining area, they're rolling countertops, and you can get one that's a butcher block, and the rolling one in the corner, and it sits over there. And then when you're cooking, you bring it over next to the stove, and you do all your chopping on the butcher block. And then you look at those faces. I'm telling you, I love it. For people who don't have islands, I recommend it all the time, because you have, and it just rolls. And the bottom of it, what's awesome, a lot of people like the wine rack on the bottom. I like the one that have a pot hanger, because then you get all that cabinet space. You take all the pots out, you hang the pots underneath it, because my Italian grandma hung them up on the top of the kitchen area. But you hang the pots down there. Now you have more space underneath, and then you roll that over so you can do all your chopping. And it's a great little thing for the kitchen.
You're speaking my language. Utility.
Yes. Trust me, you get one of those, you'll be able, I'll probably call you and have you video all the things that you do to it, because you'll find 16 other ways to hang stuff and get stuff in there.
Oh, yes, you would.
This is true.
I know everyone wants to know, because a lot of people are asking, talk to me about, was part of the scary document stuff, the HOA's documents that came during that avalanche of paperwork? Was it, people always freak out about the HOA documents because they're so thick.
The HOA document we got was 44 pages long. A lot of it was legal jargon that I had to get online to kind of decipher and figure out what it meant. But after reading it, I felt a lot more confident about buying the home and understanding what we would be getting ourselves into. There are a couple of odd things that I saw in there, but there wasn't anything that I felt was super egregious that I needed to push back on.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Tell people all the time, look through it. And most of the time people say it was, an inch thick, and I just wanted to see where I could park. And that's, the main thing they're looking for.
Yeah.
But once you get through that, you understand that's going to be part of your process. But, you were talking about, and I'm pretty harsh on the podcast about waiving inspection. And that's because I have a lot of people who are buying older homes. A townhome under 20 years. If you've never bought a home before and you're listening to this podcast, first of all, good for you. According to Kenneth and Danielle, you're planning. So good job. But understand that with the townhome, anytime you've got HOA fees, your insurance, the main reason you have insurance on a piece of property that you own is in case of a fire, and in case of the roof, and in case of the foundation. Well, all that is covered by the HOA. So the big stuff you're looking for on the inspection, and I know I keep joking about it, but Kenneth, it's the appliances, Kenneth. But it's knowing, okay, well, I know I can replace that. I know I can replace that. But the big things, you don't have to worry about them inspecting the foundation, because the foundation is covered by the HOA. You don't have to worry about them inspecting the roof. Anything that is attached to the other properties in your unit, that's going to be covered by the HOA. I'm not saying it's going to be super fun if it happens, because everybody on your little block is going to be getting something fixed, but it's not super fun when your own house has the problem. But it's one less thing you actually have to worry about on the inspection. And I know you guys were in good hands, and if you go into it eyes wide open, that can still be a good position for you. So, go ahead.
And I was going to say, and that's, as you talk about that is one thing I want to give a shout out to Kate Herzik out of, is it EXP Realty? Yeah. And because as we went through looking at multiple homes, right, she kept it real with us and gave us an idea of a better idea of what it would be for us being moving into a new home. I think there was one we were looking at, and she mentioned to us that it was another townhome and the master bedroom didn't have a door to it. And she was saying, okay, well, just think about when your daughter gets of age to come knock on your door. There is no door. So she's just coming right in. And so
it's fine now because she can't get out of that sleeper, but she'll be able to soon.
Right. So, there were things like that we weren't thinking of. We were just, bedazzled by the idea of moving into our own home and, maybe the nice walls and nice appliances and things of that nature. But she really did help us think through the utility of the home that we were going to be buying. And that was something that I really appreciated.
She appealed to your utility. See, now I know she did it just because she's a good unicorn realtor, but it's amazing what you attract to the utility of it, because you can get, Danielle, were you going into it thinking I'm okay with the fixer, or did you want your little HGTV home right away?
I was the in between. Kenneth and I had this conversation. I said, if we buy a home, the kitchen needs to be done and the bathrooms need to be mostly done, because especially with having a young child, I do not want to be in a kitchen where I can't cook or we can't cook. And so I didn't need everything to be perfect, but I needed those two things, the bathrooms and the kitchen, to be livable. Other things, we could figure it out.
Now, when he came to you and said that he'd secretly been listening to my podcast, which is kind of creepy and kind of flattering all at the same time, did you guys have those discussions then, or did you have them with Kate?
We had them before we met with Kate, and it was kind of an ongoing thing because I also told him that I prefer not to look at homes that were 1950s and older, preferably. So we were just, as we were looking at more homes and saw what was available, we had those conversations about what we would be willing to do. And that site, I can't remember what the site is called, but it's the site where all the homes are listed, and it's a site that Kate sent to us.
MLS.
The MLS. Yeah, that's the Zillow and Redfin are for the public. The MLS are the realtor ones. It's multiple listing service. It's also Major League Soccer. So,
that was wonderful in helping us to really have those real conversations about what we would be willing to buy. Because before we looked at that, we're just like, oh, we think we want this, we think we want that. But once we actually started looking at homes, we had these discussions on, okay, well, this is what this home offers. Could it work? And sometimes mom was like, no, let's just delete it and move on to the next. So it was really ongoing, I would say.
I think that's great advice.
One thing we haven't talked about a lot during our conversation are the numbers. But I want to make sure I mention it because that is an important part as well. Know your numbers. Be able to go into the conversation knowing those and understanding what it is that you are willing to sacrifice on when you go to the table to negotiate. Because if you can hack those things into your contract when your realtor submits your offer, I think it gives you that much more of a better chance to have a contract that the buyer or the seller rather is going to be willing to accept. For
That's
us,
huge.
The biggest piece for us was the monthly costs. And so even though we started out like low, so we are in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So we started out thinking we might want something for about $450,000, and that's still a lot of money to the both of us, right? But we, at the end of the day, knew, and so we, at the end of the day, realized we could probably be somewhere between 450 and 650 and be able to live comfortably. And I think we ended up buying somewhere in the middle there, but knowing your numbers and understanding where you can move money in your to accommodate your monthly payments is going to be crucial prior to going in and looking at any home or writing any kind of offer.
Now, wait, that was awesome. Say that last part again. Know your numbers, but know where you can move money around.
Yes.
Because
know where you can move money around on the monthly basis, because it's although it is a marathon, you have to be able to sprint throughout the month to get to the end of the race. So know where you're going and know what you can move.
Yeah. If your lender's got you set up, then you no longer are looking at the price and the price tag. You already know, okay, at $450 we pay this a month, at $500 we pay this a month, at $525 we pay this a month, and at $575 we can still make it like our $550 payment or $525 payment, but that means we're going to have to take a little bit out of savings and up the down payment or whatever it is. But if you know all those numbers ahead of time, it's less of a shock to your system, because when you find that one home that you want to stretch for, instead of going, oh my God, we only wanted to pay $550, that home's $600. You're looking at it going, well, I didn't want to take all my savings out, but for that house, I'll take most of my savings out. And it changes your perspective.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds to me like planning was the key for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Outside of me low key listening to your podcast without my wife
on the DL.
Right.
Yes. And here I thought he was listening to some other podcast, and no.
Yeah. Thought he was just listening to some true crime stuff, and nothing that was, educational. And I tell people all the time, you can go to college with podcasts. If you got a commute, you can get a 4-year. I mean, I've studied so much, and it's been so fun. And then, when I'm really tired, I throw on my comedy podcasts. But there's so much that you can learn, and you guys being able to work together. I mean, yes. They're huge pieces here. Know your numbers.
Yes.
Check the boxes, but don't worry about checking all of them. The commute is huge. I'm getting so many people right now that are telling me that they're thinking about going way out because why not?
Yeah.
And but for you guys, the choice was, my job is here, and we're going to have a place that we enjoy, and we're probably not going to be here forever, but that commute time is important to you. And that's an important piece you have to figure out. I think a lot of times people forget that. I tell people, when you're looking on Zillow and Redfin, make sure you learn how to use those map buttons, and then take it and put it in Google Maps and see how long it takes to get to your office.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look that big when it's on your laptop screen or on your phone screen, but then you punch it in and it's like, 48 minutes changes everything.
Yeah. Changes your perspective. I mean, it really does. Yeah. But
it made you guys, go ahead and get something that maybe you hadn't thought about at the beginning. Yeah. And now, did the end unit affect you guys? Because I always think that's a cool thing.
The fact that it wasn't in unit?
Yeah.
Oh, I was really happy about that, because you get extra windows, and I love natural light. So I think we get 4 extra windows. And so it just, it's such a game changer.
See, now what's great for the guys who are going to be shopping with a partner, if you're not watching it online, Kenneth was like, whatever. And she was like, ooh, windows.
Right.
Wrapping things up here, since you guys have been there for a couple months, the big question I have for you, are you all unpacked?
What do you think the answer to that question is? So
please tell me your dishes are at least in the cabinets. You're not getting dishes out of boxes, are you?
Maximum utility.
Most of the dishes are out.
Any last pieces of advice for anyone out there listening? Because it's so exciting to know that you guys during the pandemic, started thinking about this. And now here you are when everyone was talking about how crazy the market was last year, and you're a zero down buyer. So any pieces of advice for anyone out there who's thinking about starting this process?
Plan. I know, and the reason I'm saying planning is I'm thinking of a couple people that were saying, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a home, but I really need to, continue to save. So I'm not going to talk to a realtor or anybody or a lender right now. I'm just going to keep focusing on these key things. And the fact of the matter is getting a unicorn team to help you walk through the process, and the lender can tell you, okay, where you need to improve in is so monumental. I mean, even though we didn't need a lot of guidance, or I won't say guidance, we had great credit and just things were in line for us. So we didn't need all of that guidance that they could have provided, but we knew if we did need it, he was there. I mean, he had a spreadsheet that he put the numbers. I mean, you could tell he was very prepared, and that made us feel good that, if we did need to come to him for whatever advice, that he would be there and willing to work with us. So planning with you or in your partner or whomever, and then planning with your unicorn team is crucial.
And I think that's a big thing that I want a lot of the listeners to understand, because there are a lot of people that are listening with me and you guys in their ear holes right now, and they're never even thought about it, and they're at the beginning phases. Great. If you can have a guide, you're going to get there so much faster. And a good guide doesn't care if it's going to take 2 or 3 years. And then if you're on the other end of the spectrum, like you guys, it's like taking a professional athlete and then bringing in, a guru, and suddenly you're almost there, and just give me a couple little tricks and boom, now you're a Hall of Famer, just like that.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what that team was able to do for you, to be like, oh, good, smart people. Come on, here. Good. You did good with your credit. You did good with your money. Now let's do this. Let's do that. And we'll get you something even with the VA loan. That's incredible.
Yeah. I would say plan, know your numbers, ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask them until you understand. If your team isn't willing to sit there and explain it to you until several different ways until it's crystal clear to you, then they're probably not the team for you. And then I'd say just show yourself some grace, because it's a lengthy process, and as far as looking through homes, and you put a bid on something that you really want and you don't get it, that's all right. Dust yourself off and move to the next one.
I love it. Grace, mercy, and forgiveness in this market. And I always tell my clients, never be insulted. You guys are wonderful people. I am going to talk to you like you're in kindergarten, and I'm going to say things 5 times. And if you can, anytime you want to just put your hand up and go, Sidoni, I'm good. But because that clarification is so important. And I think what you guys hit is so key. It's never too early to start planning. If you're somewhere now don't call me if you're 16, but if you're somewhere and you're paying rent, start thinking about it. I do have an 18-year-old that called me. I love that dude. He's like, I'm in college. When I get out, how long when I have my job before they'll give me a loan? Like, you go, buddy. I love it.
Yeah. Madison in the making.
Madison in the making. I know. Gosh. Yeah. I just talked to her today. She's doing great. I love her.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Well, enjoying the unicorn bubble.
The unicorn bubble. I know. I love it. I love it. You guys, this is so awesome and so amazing. So everyone out there, Kenneth and Danielle have helped you to understand the big P word. Plan, everybody, plan.
It is truly important. Save you from so many headaches on the back.
Okay, so if you had any doubts about buying your first home, these guys did it, and they had a little Bambino in tow while they did that. Huh? Pretty exciting. If they shop for a home like that, having to carry a little baby around, well, then guess what? you can do this too. I'm really glad there were so many tips and tricks in there, so many great things for you guys, but I just want to make sure you understood and you heard the main theme. Did you hear the theme? Plan. It's the number one most valuable piece of advice for anyone that ever wants to buy a home. Period. The end. Discussion over. You want to know where to start to buy your first home? Plan. You want to know when you should start your plan? Yesterday. And how do you find the right plan for you? Well, how about 80 episodes of content right there on your phone? It's right there for you. All you got to do is figure out what phase you're in. And then you find a unicorn yourself, or you ask me to share one with you. You meet your realtor, you meet a lender, and you get your action steps, no matter how small, and you start that plan today. Kenneth and Danielle are really smart, really good people with good jobs and good finances. And when they tried to look at new build homes and do this on their own, well, it all came at them too fast and they felt too pressured and unsure. So the cure for the unsure, a plan. Are you sensing my theme now? It started with Kenneth making my podcast his dirty little secret. Love you, Kenneth, but how long did you have to listen before you realized that maybe you should start, getting your partner involved, get her on board and listening to the planning? Just a thought, bro. Hey, look, as I record this right now, it's the middle of March 2022, and I'm not sure you're watching the news, but gang, things going a little nuts right now. We have a stock market in turbulence. We've got global uncertainty. We've got a housing market that truly defies all logic. So in an upside down world, I want to share something with you that is so super important. This has got to be like one of my main themes. It's huge. I should print this out and put this on the wall behind me. This statement alone could save you thousands, especially when we're talking over your lifetime. Everyone always asks me, what's the top tip? What's the number one thing you would tell a first-time buyer? No matter what's going on in the world, the number one greatest way to take advantage of the global uncertainty is not to wait it out by doing nothing. Planning right now will set you up for the most advantageous results later on, no matter what happens. I'm not saying you have to run out and buy right now because things are uncertain. Who knows? Planning during this time period, while everyone else is panicking and burying their head in the sand, start your planning now and you're going to be in a better position. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, cool. Well, thanks a lot for that information. So I'm going to keep saving and putting my, reducing my debt and doing all those things that you told me to do. Yes, that's a good plan. But you know what a better plan is? Find a pro team that's willing to work with you right now, even though you're not going to be a paycheck anytime soon. So whenever you do this, whether it's by necessity or whether it's by your own personal choice to wait, you're going to have more options later on. And it's going to be guided by a professional team that whenever you're ready, they're going to be there for you. Many people think sitting around and waiting for prices to drop or for rates to change or for the uncertainty to settle down is taking action by non-action. I totally get that. That makes sense. You think things are nuts right now. I'm not going to jump into this. So cool. You decide to wait it out. I get it. It's like figuring out in November that you want a new mattress. And so you're going to wait to buy a new mattress that you really want when the big sales hit in February. Yeah, that's a great plan. But here's the big difference. You know how to buy a mattress. Buying a home has so many more variables than that and other factors that take time for you to adjust, tweak, and set yourself up perfectly. So you can't just do nothing and suddenly decide to go out and look at houses. Remember the stories of my fun friend, Kenneth and Danielle. They were saving up, doing great, good jobs, good lives, and then suddenly they went out and looked at homes, and how did they feel? Pressured, scared, confused, and darn uncomfortable. Now, the cool thing is, let's fast forward to talking about when they had their plan together. Did you hear Danielle laughing? Hysterical? Did you hear Mr. Utility feel so much more comfortable when he understood the process and he understood all the options and the ability to manipulate the things that were in front of him? Because that's kind of his jam, right? Mr. Utility likes that a lot. Let me tweak this and make it just right. For them, they landed the plane, as he said. Love that Air Force analogy. They got to use a VA loan to maximize their purchase. They leaned into their unicorn team, and with a few compromises, just like the commute over the appliances. Sorry about that, Kenneth. Better decision in the long run, and that's a great, quick little compromise. And now They're in a home that has a fixed payment that will not go up, just like the rents are, which, by the way, read an article today, 60 Minutes had something come out, 15%. Now, I know inflation's going nuts. It's at 7 or 8%, but I don't think inflation is at 15% as of right now. A house is a great hedge against that terrible inflation. And these guys are in their house, giggling, laughing, and having a good time. One of the things I'm going to tell you about this episode, go ahead, re-listen to it again. If you don't think you can do this, if you think that a small, low down payment is something that can't get you in to get a house, if you think this is never going to work for me, I'm not sure it's going to work for everybody, but I know that most of you, if you're out there and you're renting at the average rent in your area, you can probably afford, with the right guidance, to figure out how to purchase a home. Re-listen to this episode again. Get those real life affirmation tips. I've been trying to tell you for a while, but let's go over some of the ones that were really, really enticing in this podcast. So let me start with the purely narcissistic one, that the podcast is the greatest listening and learning tool for road trips ever invented. Maybe I'm blowing that up a little bit, but hey, look, as long as you're not driving in a boring stretch of road, I don't want you to crash listening to me crunch numbers for you, but the podcast is a great way to learn. Knowledge is power, gang. One of the other things that they mentioned, take notes. Now, I've told you guys before, you can download the transcripts from howtobuyahome.com. You can save them electronically, or you can save them and you print them out and use paper. Don't do that. Save the world, kids. Come on now. One other thing they talked about, VA loans rock. If you're eligible, get a unicorn today because you have killer options with a VA loan. Another thing, unicorns rule. Kate crushed it for them and she hooked them up with a unicorn lender, and that lender called when the offer was put in and made them stand out in this competitive market, which I know appealed to Kenneth and his competitive nature. Another thing, once you get an offer accepted, be ready. This is just me preparing you. All right, be ready for absolute mayhem. It's an avalanche of paperwork, and Kenneth actually compared it to hazing. And the dude was in the military, so he knows what he's talking about. Another good point, the contracts are long and detailed. Always a good idea to ask your unicorn realtor ahead of time, hey, can you send me a contract before suddenly we go look at a home and we have to write an offer in the next 15 seconds? Take a look at the contract as much as you're taking a look at Zillow. It'll help you. And then the point that I've been telling you guys for a while, compromise happens. Buying a home is a process of elimination from the inventory available. Remember, there's going to be some compromises. And the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, the more you get that going on in your head, the easier it is for you to decide when something comes up as a compromise versus a financial decision versus an emotional decision. You can't versus three things, but I just did. Okay, and one of the final points that they talked about, be ready to get creative with your offer in this competitive market. Know your numbers. Kenneth said because he knew his numbers, he knew how to be able to move things around to make it look better to the seller. Use all the hacks that they were talking about. And there's a ton of hacks I've mentioned to you for bidding wars. You've got escalation clauses, appraisal gap coverage, a free rent back, or one of my favorites, offering to pay the seller's closing costs. It's something that can make you look good. I understand. Some people aren't in a position, don't have the means. Some people are wanting to sit it and wait it out. That's cool. But your best plan is to start a plan. And start that plan with the pro team as soon as possible. If you want to take advantage of something in the future, line yourself up today with educated and guided planning. Now, this is something that kind of sounds like an old man telling you should do this, but I can't tell you, when you're in a competitive market like this, having those little extras, whether it's a little extra cash or just extra ideas or extra creative things with your loan, that's going to go miles as far as you being able to be competitive. And if you're looking for other ideas, you can get tons of ideas from my Instagram feed with dozens of how-to videos. That's at davidsidoni.com. The How to Buy a Home website has great free information. Check it out at howtobuyahome.com. And there's also the YouTube page. Now, the YouTube page is going real big right now, and I'm excited about it. So jump on. You can stream your YouTube like my kids do when they're brushing their teeth or doing the dishes or walking the dog. Get on the YouTube page, How to Buy a Home podcast. And last, TikTok, gang. I'm all over TikTok. I just got crazy in it right now. So where are my listeners? Where are you guys? Follow me on TikTok. Hit me up at How to Buy a Home on TikTok. There's tons of free content. I answer questions. I do stupid trends. And you might even be able to see this old man dance. All this stuff is free, and if it's helping you with your plan, please leave a review on Apple. And Spotify's got reviews now too. That's a great place. It would really help us out to get the word out so we can get more stories like the story you just heard. There's a reason I give all this stuff away for free, because people like Kenneth and Danielle deserve it. They deserve to feel better than they did when they tried to do this on their own in 2022. When they tried to do this with no plan, they failed. They plan, they succeed. Simple as that. You might be confused now, but by educating yourself, getting yourself a guide sooner than you think, you probably need one. You're going to find out that guide's going to be willing to help you from the beginning steps of your plans, and they're going to give you action plan steps to help you avoid the horror stories that you might have heard about. And then you too can be giggling in delight like these two buyers. You can do this.